everyone, welcome back. I am Claudia Pascal, your host, and I am so excited that you all are here. I am super excited to get into the episode we have for today because we're finally going to start getting deeper and more practical in our conversation. I'm assuming that if you're here, you have decided that you want financial freedom, or you are strongly getting closer to committing to financial freedom for you. If you've watched all 3 of my last episodes, you have heard my journey and realized that we cannot take our time and health for granted and get comfortable in thinking that because we are high active income earners, we will be okay. We have realized that struggling on this journey to financial freedom is not necessary. We can make it to be what we want it to be. And you have realized that going on this journey does not necessarily mean you will be struggling and miserable, and that you can make it what you personally want it to be. And that even if it does come with challenges, they are worth it because struggling in the long term is not an option. And you have also realized that having debt does not have to stop you from taking steps towards financial freedom, and that there's ways to decide whether or not investing is better than paying off the debt. So now that we've covered all of those points and we've gotten to the place where we are ready to begin, how exactly should we begin? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to be sharing with you what the steps that I and my husband took and that I believe are the best steps to take to beginning this journey. When it comes to starting, I am a firm believer that starting sooner than later is the best. But when I say start, I am referring to a start process. There are phases to actually starting to pursue financial freedom. And I want to take the time to go through those phases to make sure that we're all on the same page and positioning ourselves to get the best out of this journey. So when my husband and I were talking about financial freedom, or when the way my husband and I got to the conclusion of choosing financial freedom was because of the discussions that I mentioned to you we were having when not too long after I started dental school. So we made the commitment, okay, we want financial freedom. And after we did that, my husband graduated, and that's when he started gaining all kinds of information. He was reading so many books, listening to so many podcasts, and just really gathering all the information he could find out there to equip him to figure out, okay, what's the best way to pursue financial freedom? And then after getting all that information and us discussing it and seeing, okay, what are the options out there, we then were able to decide what was the way that was most appropriate for us and our circumstances and our personal goals. That is the same route that I want each of you to be taking as you start your journey to financial freedom. The first thing that we want to do when it comes to pursuing financial freedom is identifying what exactly is our number, and what is that number that will allow us to say we are financially independent and no longer have to actively earn the income that we need to live the lives that we want to live. So where I recommend starting to calculate this number is by simply asking yourself, if you did not have to worry about money, what kind of life would you be living? What would you be doing? Where would you be going? What would that life look like for you? And the reason why I suggest starting at that point is because we really don't know, where we will be in 10, 15 years or so. We only know where we are now, what we're passionate about now, and we know what we need in order to live now. However, for many of us, the way we're functioning now is with limitations, right? So if we're going to go into this journey, let's just go all in. Let's just aim for the absolute best. Let's just aim for abundance. Even if that's not what you want, let's just think that way. Let's think of having plenty of money to do whatever it is we want, not just to survive, not just to make it not just to continue making it the way we are now. Money to do what we really, really want to do, but just can't because we don't have the money. And when you sit and really think about that answer to that question, you will realize that there are some things that you are doing now that you probably will no longer be doing. And if some of those things that you will no longer be doing includes activities that earn you income, we have to take that into consideration because we're going to have to create the income to replace that. So maybe right now you're working 5 days a week and you believe that if money wasn't a factor, you would only be working 3 days a week or 2 days a week. So we now have to factor that in mind. The life that you would be living if money was not a concern involves less work, which means less active income. So we need to make sure we're compensating for that. And then the other thing that comes with the life that we may live is sometimes more expenses. So there's things that you're not spending money on now that you really would love to spend money on. And so we now need to, once again, compensate for that in our number. What are the expenses that we will be adding? Because that also will modify or affect the number that we will need to get to. So after thinking about that ideal life that we want to live and coming up with that vision, we now need to actually start calculating. We need to now actually start listing out those numbers. So you can get you an Excel sheet, I prefer Excel sheet because it just makes it easier. You can save it on a cloud or something, get you a Google Sheets. And just start listing out what is your current budget. So what are the expenses you're currently making? And then add into that list the things that you just identified you want to now have money for in the life that you will be living where money is not a concern. That will allow you to realize how much money you will need to be able to have coming in consistently so that you can say you're financially independent, you're financially free. And to make it simple, just start off by looking at it on a monthly basis. And then after you calculate that monthly basis, multiply by 12, that'll tell you, how much it is you need on an annual basis. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Typically, when we're thinking about having the option to retire, the option to let go of our jobs, we're probably thinking we have to ask ourselves, how much money do we need for the X amount of years that we will need to continue living? The truth of the matter is we'll never be able to reach that money, even if we tried our hardest. We'll never be able to reach that amount of money in our lifetime if we're just trying to save. And that's why when you're pursuing financial freedom, you're not just trying to save, you're trying to invest and create passive incomes that will continue to be there even after you stop working. So this is why you need a specific financial freedom calculator. And as you know, Grant Sabatier is the author of the book that I highly recommend anyone reads who is interested in pursuing financial freedom. And he has a calculator that he created. So you can use that calculator. And there's other things out there. So that's the first step, calculating your number. And not only calculating your number, but also identifying when you want to get there. Because the time by which you want to get to that point will also heavily impact how much money you need to be investing and how much passive income you need to be creating in order to indefinitely carry on life without having to actively earn money. So now that we've calculated the numbers that we need to keep in mind in order to create the fulfilling lives that we want, and also the powerful legacies, which I didn't really mention, but that's another thing you want to include in your numbers is your giving, right? So some of us, we have big visions. Like I know personally philanthropy is really big for me. So that's also something you want to make sure you're including that number. So now that we've calculated, what numbers will allow us to create the fulfilling lives that we want and create the powerful legacies that we want, we now have to start learning and identifying ways to actually get there. Now, this is an important part to this journey. And when it comes to learning, I'm not just talking about the knowledge that you need to gain, but also the network that you need to grow. This is so important, you guys, because you can know all the things out there about finance and money, but how effectively and how efficiently you're able to actually achieve those goals, and able to apply what it is that you know, is highly impacted by the people that you know and the people that you are working with to achieve those goals. So when it comes to this learning phase, there are 3 components that I want you to especially focus on. The first is the actual knowledge. So the pure information that is out there in books, that's out there in podcasts, that's out there on the internet and articles, that's for sure an important foundational piece. You really just need to know the facts. You just need to know the information, period. The second thing that is important is actually identifying examples. So people who are actually doing the things that you are considering doing, people who are applying the knowledge that you're learning, you want to find those individuals and you want to now be studying them as well, learning from them and their experiences, because that alone adds so much value and helps you to figure out what the best way is to go about applying this information that you are getting. And then the third thing is growing your network. So your network, meaning people that you literally know and that you are connected to, who have whose expertise and knowledge and experience can now add more precision and more quality to whatever it is that you are learning and considering to apply. How efficient and effective you are in applying the information and taking the steps that you are now identifying in this phase is heavily impacted by the people that you are doing it with. We cannot go through this journey alone. We will not be able to. There's many things that we're going to have to do that's going to require working with other individuals, whether it's a business that we're going to be establishing, whether it's a business we're going to be investing in, whether we're getting into stocks, whether we're getting into real estate, whatever it is that we are thinking about getting into, there's going to be other people involved. And the more quality individuals you have on your team, the more quality you will have in the outcome of whatever it is that you do. So increasing that knowledge, knowing more and more of what's out there, increases your opportunities. It increases your ability to identify all the options that exist out there for you. Seeing examples of individuals further gives you more knowledge, and as well as perspective and insight on the best way to go about it. And then having a solid network allows you to really be more efficient and effective in whatever it is that you're going to be doing to reach your financial freedom. So that's the second step. And many people will go from that second step straight into actually investing. They're now say, okay, I've gotten the information that I need and I'm ready to make a move. Let me do it. However, I believe there is one essential step that many people don't consider, and that I believe causes many of us to even turn away from the idea of financial freedom alone, because we're hearing people who's telling us that it's too soon to start or it's too risky to start. Because as you're learning these things, anything we do in life is going to come with a risk. And as you start diving deep into identifying how to invest, one thing you're going to realize is that investing comes with risks. And that's where, it just pains me, because I hear so many people tell us, especially us young students, residents, doctors, that we shouldn't be making any moves or making any big investments until we're further into our career, or until we're this or that and whatever. And I strongly disagree, because if you make sure you have the knowledge and you are seeing individuals who have done it well and successfully, and you're paying attention to them and taking note of what they did, and then you have a solid team of people with you, you are already setting yourself up for success. There's no reason why you should be making a foolish move or getting there. That to me eliminates the idea of getting into something that's going to cause you harm or loss. But the other thing that especially allows you to not experience unnecessary loss, headache, or frustrations, or take away from the things that you really need to focus on, such as your program, your training, and your career, is having a solid strategy. Having a strategy is so important. Strategizing, you guys, is really what I think makes the difference between starting and stalling. Many of us stall because we think it's risky. We don't know if it's going to work. We're not sure. Even though we have the knowledge, even though we see the people, we're just stalling. But when you sit and you calculate and identify a solid strategy that now is tailored to your circumstances and your specific goals, you in essence minimize your risks and you optimize your gains. Many people are out there saying, hey, this is what you should consider. Consider A, B, C, D when it comes to getting your finances right and planning and all that kind of stuff. And they just leave you with that. They just leave you with, here's A, B, C, D, E. But it's not as simple as A, B, C, D, E, right? Especially for us young ones who may not have much money. For many of us, just seeing the A, B, C, D, E may be discouraging because we're like, oh, I can't afford any of those things, right? Or, man, how do I choose which one to actually go with? Or you're just hearing people tell you, don't do anything at all yet until X, Y, Z. But what is most important about strategizing, and what me and my husband was especially adamant about doing, is not just seeing, okay, there's A, B, C, D, E, but trying to see which of those should we start with. There was, of course, many options on things. Stock market for sure is one of them. Starting a business, right? Starting a side hustle is definitely one of them. Like, there's so many ways you can start creating passive income. There's so many places you can put your money in so that it can grow for you. But we was like, we don't want to just like pick one and, see how it works or something. We want to like intentionally pick something that will lead to a domino effect. We want to make sure that we pick something that's going to work with our circumstances. The fact that we know we don't have a lot of money and we know we're not going to have a lot of time, right? And that's the story of many of us who are in school and residency, about to start working. We realize that we may not have a lot of money to work with initially, and or we may not have a lot of time to work with. So we don't want to just say, okay, let me pick out of A, B, C, D, E, which one I'm going to start with, or let me just automatically start with A. We want to sit and strategize and see which one of those can actually be that one domino that now leads to a ripple effect and allows us to gain even more from one little move, as opposed to feeling like we have to make this move here and then we'll make this move here and then we'll make that move there. No, you guys, you can, if you really think about your circumstances, if you really think about the money you're working with, the time that you're working with, the skills, the assets, the people that you know, the people that you have access to, when you think about all those things, there might be something that anyone else may not have done first, but you realize that if you do it first, it will now open the door or create the income or create the time that will allow you to access more opportunities, that will allow you to now take advantage of the other options. Starting at C for you may help you to now be able to take advantage of B and A later, as opposed to just starting with A and having to wait forever before you could get to B or C. Or you might start with what someone may think is the E level, right? And realize, oh, I can start there. And in the meantime, after I get that started, that's going to allow me to now also start B. And then I can get C going, right? There's not a one size fits all. And just because you may not be able to have everything does not mean you cannot start with something. And just because you may have a little doesn't mean you can't do anything at all. It's just a matter of sitting and thinking about, what is it that I can strategically do with what I do have And by strategically doing it, now create a path that will make it easier for me to continue on this in a ripple effect format, as opposed to just saying, okay, yeah, I'll just put my money there and then that's it. It's just there. And then you're just going to keep working and waiting until you can put your money there as well. So let's just say, for example, you're in dental school and you're like, I want to start pursuing financial freedom. I want to start making some small moves now that will allow me to make some bigger moves later. And you know that you have skills for photography, for instance. There's many people, I know y'all know, people who have had side hustles and things that they do well or that they just used to do before they started school that they continue on doing while they're in school. The concept of creating income while in school, while in residency, is not even foreign to many of us. We know we can do it. We've seen others doing it. It's just a matter of us believing and committing to finding out how we can do it ourselves. So back to our example, let's say you have skills in photography and you're like, I want to see how can I start? And I see, okay, stocks is one thing that is passive. I could put money in there. And let's say you have $1,000. So I have $1,000 and I know stocks is a way I can put my money in and it'll help me towards financial freedom. Yes, putting money towards stocks is definitely going to be helpful for you achieving your financial freedom goals, but you have a skill for photography. And if you have a few extra hours that you don't mind putting into photography, you do it well, you enjoy it, you might say, let me take this $1,000 and let me upgrade my camera so I could upgrade my photography game. And therefore I can charge more premium prices and now create thousands more dollars with the services that I provide and that I can now take and put towards the stocks. Another example is, let's say you're in residency. So we're going to have the option of putting your money into a retirement account. Now, we all know retirement account is one of the great places that we can also have money being passively created for us. You're going to probably tell yourself, oh, let me just immediately increase how much money I'm putting into a retirement account so that that money could start working there. There is nothing wrong with that. It's a great idea. But once again, you might realize that there's something else that you can also create with that income. Maybe you're married. Maybe you have a partner who already has something else that they do that can help bring more money to you guys' total income. And you say, okay, instead of going aggressive in the retirement account, I'm gonna put a little less there and I'm gonna instead put a little more money into what my partner is doing so that they now can be able to increase how much money they're making so that we can now be able to then go back and put into the market, right? Or you have a business you want to start and you realize, okay, I can go and put this money straight into this, or I can put it into this business. Or maybe you realize you don't have time for the business. So instead of putting the money into the business, you rather go and put it into the stock, into some ETFs instead. It's all a matter of just thinking and strategizing once again, taking the knowledge you have, seeing the examples that people have done, tapping into your network, and then strategizing based on what you have and your circumstances and your goal. Strategizing is key. And when you start strategizing, you realize, oh man, I can actually do this sooner than later. And because you have your number in mind, you know exactly what you're aiming for. And as you start, guess what? You're going to have more opportunities revealed to you. You're going to start seeing more things that you did not even see before. And I'm telling you guys that because that has literally been my life. I did not know all the things that I know now when we first started in 2019. But because we took that first step, it has led to us learning so many things. And it has also especially helped me to believe more in myself. Remember, I'm not naturally entrepreneurial. I was super scary, but I was committed and I was determined. And I was like, hey, we found a way to start, so let's just start. And as a result, I have grown so much in my confidence. I have grown so much in my ability to identify opportunities and find strategies to make things happen that many people have said is not possible and that many people don't do because they don't think it's possible. And that's the same thing that can happen for you. Despite how young you are, despite how much debt you have, despite how much money you don't have, how much time you think you don't have, you will be amazed to see what really is possible when you actually start. I want you to realize that you are more capable than you think, and you have more potential than you think, but you won't know it if you don't start looking for it, if you don't just start. Many of us don't even want to start because we just think we have to have this and we have to know this before we can even start moving. But remember, starting is a process. It starts with identifying that number. It starts with gaining the knowledge, the examples, and the network, and then strategizing before you make the investment. And the sooner we can start strategizing to see what's the best way we can create our custom plan that will allow us to achieve financial freedom, given our circumstances and given our personal circumstances and our personal goals, in a way that will allow us to not put ourselves in a position where we are taking unnecessary risks or where we are gambling with our money and time, but where we are instead positioning ourselves to start creating the money and therefore creating the time that will allow us to start enjoying fulfilling lives and creating our powerful legacies sooner than later. I hope you guys found this episode helpful to you. And if it did, let me know in the comments. And if this is something that you've already been doing, let me know so I can celebrate with you. And if you have more questions about this and you feel like, man, I'm still not sure of where to start, how to begin, let me know. Follow me on Instagram, because my goal is to keep sharing different pointers for you. And the more you share with me, the more feedback you give me, then the more I can be able to share the information that will add value to you on your personal journeys. Thank you guys so much for being here. And I'm so excited to keep getting further along into this journey with you guys. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Take care.